everyone, welcome to part 2 of chapter 5. Now we are going to focus on the responsive web design. So this type of approach styles content differently depending on the type of device to view the site. The mobile first approach, it can focus on styling content as appropriate for smaller mobile devices. When we are designing for mobile devices, the goal is to display the content that is accessed by most users. It is so you want to show those content that are being accessible by the user. Only show those content that a lot of users wants to see it. It's also a best practice to use a single column layout for a mobile display, as this can actually prevent from scrolling horizontally. Displaying what mobile device users need and want on a single screen with minimal scrolling can create a more enjoyable experience for the users. So by now you kind of understand that styling content for mobile device is actually different from styling content for a desktop device. The screen size is actually smaller, so we must analyze each page to determine the most important content that you want to show on that page. And then style that content to attract the users of mobile devices. If we don't have an existing website, we can begin by first determining the most essential content for our website. If we already have a page content, we need to remove some of the content for mobile viewpoint. So you can think of this approach is similar of moving from a large home to actually a smaller home. Before moving can take place, you must determine the essential elements that you want to take with you. So it's the same concept happens to when you want to actually design for mobile devices. In this picture, you can see a wireframe example for a traditional desktop viewport, noting that the multiple column layout and different areas of the content are there. If you were to use all the same area of the content for mobile design, the wireframe would look like something like that. So for mobile device, you will see something like that, versus in the desktop design, you will see something like that. Also, there is one thing wrong with this mobile wireframe, is that it's too long and it can require a lot of extra scrolling for a mobile user. So an ideal web page in a mobile viewport requires little or actually no scrolling at all. So we need to kind of analyze this more to determine, the area with the most essential content. You can actually hide the non-essential content area for a mobile viewport as well. So in this picture, it shows how to hide some web page area to create a revised mobile wireframe. So you are actually kind of hiding those. So you are going to have a less button here and you don't have to scroll down. So you're actually optimizing this interface to have a better user experience. So optimizing the interface to maximize the mobile user experience, that could be very beneficial. These are basically some key practices when we are designing for mobile viewports. We want to make sure that we use 100% of the screen space. We can design the navigation to be easy and as well as intuitive. We can keep the load times to minimal, which can enhance the load time by removing the bandwidth intensive content and also streamlining our HTML code. Also, another best practice is to display the essential page content and hide the non-essential page content as well. Another tip is to make the content easy to access and read. And the last tip is to design a simple layout. So these are some of the best practices that you want to take in mind when you are designing for mobile viewports. Now let's look at using the span element. The span element allows us to use CSS to format a span of text separately from its surrounding text. The span element can begin with a span tag and end with a /span tag. So a start and a stop tag. And an inline element, it can be applied to the text within a block. A class can be added to a span element to style its text. So for instance, we can use span class desktop, and then maybe we can show, whatever the content that we want to show, and then close the span tag. So this is the example here. So in this code, defines the telephone number as part of the span element and assigns the span element to the desktop class. Now the style rule for the desktop class will apply to the phone number. In this case, the phone number will be hidden on a mobile viewport. Later, we can create style rules to display the phone number on tablet and as well as desktop viewpoints. The next thing that we are going to talk about is adding meta tag. For responsive site, adding the meta tag to the head section of each website of a web page is important. This code makes sure that the page initially loads in a layout width that matches the viewport of the device. Initially loading the correct layout for each device is very helpful for mobile devices because it can eliminate extra zooming that it might be needed. So this is the code for it, the meta name viewport content with devices with initial scale equals to 1. So in this code, it makes sure that the page initially loads in a layout width that matches the viewport of the device. The last thing that we are going to talk about in this chapter is testing web pages in viewport of different sizes. So one way to test our web page for various devices, an operating system and browser, and viewport size is to publish our web page to a web server and then access it from all those configurations that we want to test. This approach is very expensive and also is very impractical. Fortunately, there are many tools and emulators that are available to make the testing process less expensive and much faster. So you can see some of the options in this table actually. So there are some emulators named such as Mozilla Firefox Developer, Viewport Emulator, TestIPhone.com, Windows Phone Emulator. So you can actually go to these websites and you can actually test to see if your site, is working on it. So basically, they are going to test your web pages for the various devices that you want to have. And that's it for this chapter. I hope you have a great day, and please let me know if you have any problems. Take care. Bye-bye.